Hey all. Okay, so from the top, this episode was the perfect mix of heartwarming, awkward, and beautiful all at once. And of course, I am mostly talking about Robin's reunion with Saul in that context, as in a lot of ways, this episode does something I normally don't like, which is spending the entire episode on building up to this like big emotional or just generally climactic payoff, only for the moment to happen at the very end of the episode. But in this case, that final moment not only felt really well earned with how the episode built upon it, but also the way that moment played out when Robin and Saul finally reunite as was just as impactful as there's one key writing decision made, which I think made that whole sequence worth it in the end, which is when meeting for the first time in decades. They chose the path of having Robin and Saul live in the present to show them just happy that the other is alive and and while they do talk about the past a little bit, I like how it's also Robin who forgoes the idea of dwelling on that past and just embracing the moment they're in right now, showing that yeah, Robin has truly grown. Like even though her past is always going to be her past, she's never going to truly be able to forget that. She's learned to move on in order that the past doesn't define who she herself is, and in keeping and it's who she is right now that matters, and keeping that tone that is just and that keeping that tone that this is I like how it just keeps that tone that this is just a reunion between two friends who haven't seen each other in a decades long span of time, and just showing how far they've come since then. And yeah, that shot of and how they've gone on their own adventures that they've lived their own lives up to this point, and now they're just happy being in each other's company. And yeah, that shot of Robin hugging Saul for the first song, hugging Saul with the Straw Hats looking on, was probably the perfect end point for this episode. In saying that, while I normally dislike the anime reusing flashbacks we've already seen like a dozen times up to this point, as part of I did actually like it as part of the as part of the build up for the big moment in this episode, as the one they used here showing us Robin's struggle to survive as a child does actually kind of work for me, but more specifically how they use the sort of black and white filtering over top of the part of the episode, over top of that part of the episode, as a way of kind of reinforcing the idea that while it was a terrible and traumatic moment in Robin's life, again, it's also part of her past. The part of her that she's leaving where it belongs in the past. Like I said, she's not dwelling on it. She'll never forget what happened, but she can move forward from it. And in saying that, one thing I loved immediately after we cut away from that brief recollection of the past and back to the present is how so much of the Straw Hats' exploits have been recognized by Elbaf, whether it's their campaign against Building Bomb or even way back in Annie's Lobby or even the Little Garden. Like, as Harian said, even for a country as isolated as Elbaf, word of mouth still pretty much gets around, and those exploits are kind of in their own way paying dividends right now. Like the Straw Hats are revered among the Giants, like because of their exploits. It's because of what they've done that Elbaf is considered does consider them in a way heroes, even though Luffy doesn't like being called a hero. And yeah, for me, one thing this arc is doing so well now that we're getting into the real meat of Elbaf, so to speak, is the environmental world building. Just from merely exploring the island, it feels like we're already learning so much about Elbaf, letting the exploration tell the island's story about what Elbaf really is, rather than overly long bits of exposition, which admittedly this arc is unintentionally exposing one of the big flaws the post-time skip has, I think, had for a while, looking back, there have been a lot of lengthy there have been a lot of lengthy moments of exposition that have basically told the story and not the world itself. Even even as one of those weirdos I am who doesn't hate everything in the post-time skip, even I can say it had a bit of exposition bloat. It had a bit of an exposition bloat problem where sometimes talking would kind of be the way that they would tell the story of some of those arcs, rather than just let the rather than let the just environment and the exploration itself tell the story like it usually would. There would still be moments of that, but large in part it would also be exposition too. And with that said, on top of being a great adaptation of Robin and Saul's reunion, weirdly enough, this felt like a kind of a tribute and celebration of Robin as a character and how far she has come in her journey leading to this moment, rather than that just focusing solely on the reunion between Saul and Robin. It's like a celebration of her character, and on a fun, and I guess on that note, I also got to talk about that post-credit scene reel, because what they did with the Straw Hats was kind of, I don't know if it was unintentionally or intentionally hilarious, but I just kind of laughed out loud at how while the whole emotional moment of Robin and Saul was going on, we kind of saw that clips reel in the credits of the majority of the Straw Hats bawling their fucking eyes out at the reunion, whereas you got Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei just looking on stoically. Just the contrast itself was just funny as hell to me. It was a funny moment overall, frankly. Unintentionally so, but still a funny moment. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just shit it around, guys. Dark Knight of the Night signing off. Later, everyone.